Hello everyone, welcome back to ArcVis Africa. It's Dixon here again with you from AAA Studio. So the aim of ArcVis Africa is to share with you some tools that you can use in your rendering practice, in your ArcVis practice. So in the past couple of months, we've been looking at D5 render, and I thought it would be nice also to share with you some tips and some kind of tutorials on Corona Render. Corona Render is quite a powerful software. These are some images from their gallery. You can see some beautiful images here. So we're going to have a look at how you can use Corona Render. A lot of students, when they start using or they start kind of engaging in ArcVis, they are intimidated by 3DSMAX because of all these tools that you can see here. But I'm going to show you how to basically find your way around 3DSMAX, so that you don't get intimidated. Maybe you don't model in 3DSMAX, maybe you model in Revit or SketchUp or any other kind of modeling software, and you are interested in kind of rendering with 3ds Max, and you're intimidated by this program. I just want to give you a very basic introduction course of what you need if you are using 3ds Max just for ArcVis and you're not modeling in 3ds Max. So let's have a look. Okay, so just like any other software, you've got the file menu, which you can kind of create new, save, and you can import files, export files. You've got edit, where you can copy, move, rotate, scale, and then you've got tools and grouping. So I'm going to show you the types that I use. So basically I use file. I hardly model in 3ds Max. I have done a couple of models in 3ds Max, but mostly I use Revit, I think because of speed and time, and also because there's always changes with clients, so it's quite easy for me. Okay, so file, I use file a lot. I use edit, I use group, and I use group because sometimes I bring in lite, I bring in objects that I would like to group, and so I use groups. I don't use views, I don't use create, but I'll show you where we can find the create panel. I hardly go to the modify tab, and also animation. I used to do some animation in 3ds Max, and then I found some softwares that I think is faster and gives me very good quality, so I don't do animation in 3ds Max anymore, but maybe I'll do it sometimes. Okay, and then the rendering tab, which is quite important. Here you can set up like your renderer. If you go to rendering setup, you can basically choose your renderer, the type of renderer that you want to use, so we'll get there. Okay, and then we have customize. Okay, so basically I use file, I use edit, I use group, I use rendering, and then customize. Okay, so these are the main types that I use in 3ds Max. So first of all, if you've opened 3ds Max for the first time and you see all these tools here, the first thing you like to do is to go to customize, and then you go to unit setup. Okay, so you go to unit setup because you would want to make sure that you are drawing or working in the right scale. Okay, so 3ds Max basically has two places that you have to make sure that they are set correctly. So the first one is the display unit scale. Display unit scale means that if I set up an object, let's say for example, let's close this, and let me go to a box, and let me just create a box. I'll explain to you how to create this. If I create this box, you can see that the unit is displayed in millimeters. You can see here millimeters. Let's go back to customs and go to unit setup. So now if I go to unit setup and I change the display to centimeters, for example, and I click on OK, now if I click on this box and I go to the property of that box, you can see that it's in centimeters, okay? It's just the display. But if you go to customize again and you go to unit setup and you go to the unit system setup, you can see that the scale is 1:1 in millimeters, okay? So the scale has not changed even though the display is in centimeters, okay? So this scale here is very important, okay? It's very important. Make sure you don't play around with this. It can really mess up your models once you bring them in. I have mine in millimeters because most of the work that I do in Revit is in millimeters, so I set up my scale into millimeters. But you can change it as you deem fit, and then you can also change the display unit setup, okay? So let's put it back to millimeters and let's go okay. And then we can go again to customize, and then this time around we will go to preference, okay? Again, don't be overwhelmed by these types that are here. We're just going to have a look at what we need, what is important, and as you get used to the software, you will see maybe there are a couple of things that is important to you. I really don't want to confuse you, so let's have a look at this. So the first thing that I do is that under general, you see scene undo. How many times you would like to undo levels. So I normally set it at 100, just to make sure that, you know, I can go back as much as possible. Okay, so make sure you set that up. And then if you go to file, make sure you check backup on save, compress on save to make sure that your file is not too big. Okay, and then you can also say here you enable backup, auto backup, and then the number backup intervals, so here, and also the number of backup files. So here you see I've got 50 minutes, so every 50 minutes there's an auto backup. This is very important. We especially we are in South Africa, there's a lot of load shedding, you know, maybe you forgot your schedule and then boom, your light goes off. At least if you've got your backup, you know that your file is safe. Okay, so that will be all the things that I will do in customize. Okay, and then so now we've done the customize, we know that we are okay to start. I'm going to take you through a couple of things. Let me just delete this by clicking and pressing the delete button on the keyboard. And then I'm going to take you through these tools here, a couple of them. So this obviously is undo, this is redo, this is select and link, on link selection. So I believe in, like, you know, learning as you do. So I'm just going to introduce you to a couple of these tools, but we'll explore them further when we go to when we move the tutorial forward, because this is going to be I think 3-part series. So once we move to the next part, we'll be able to go through it. Okay, so this is select object. Okay, you select object by, let's create an object. Let's just create an object. We will come back to that. I'll show you how to create an object. So you select by just clicking, and immediately you click, which is the right click, you will see that it's selected. If you click on the side, it deselected. Okay, just by right click on the side of the object, it deselected. Okay, and then you can also select by name. If I click here and I say select by name, I get this dialog box which shows me this is the only file we have, or the only layer we have here, which is box. So if I select it and I click OK, it's selected. So imagine if you have a bigger scene, you could use select by name, and then you can basically also search in here. Let's say if you're looking for wall, you can search for wall. Because we don't have any wall, there's nothing selected here. Okay, so this is very important to really understand. Okay, and then we've got a rectangular select, which means if I click, I can kind of click and drag and select. Okay, and then we have move to, and this is also window crossing, so you kind of cross to select like multiple selections and all that. Okay, so let me go to the move. Click on move to, click on the object, and then you see that it allows you to either move on the X axis or the Y. Okay, so as long as the axis that is selected, you can see is yellow, I can only move the object in that direction. So you can see here, I can only move it in this direction. But if I move my mouse in between the Y and the X axis, then I can move it in different directions, you know. So this is very important to note that. Okay, then if I click on the move, I can click on rotate, and then I can rotate the object. You can see I can rotate the object. I will explain to you these views, how to kind of change to maximize one view or the other. We will look at that quickly. Okay, so I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo, to go back. Okay, so I've undo it. Okay, and then we also have scale. Okay, so if I click on scale again, if I select the axis that I select and I move, it scale it along that axis. Okay, this way as well. But if I select in the middle, it becomes a uniform scale. Okay, so I can scale it uniform. Okay, why is this important? Because you know, you might have not modeled your project in 3ds Max, but then you might bring in some object like furniture and cars and other things and trees, and maybe you like to scale some of them, and this is quite important to be able to scale, understand how to scale these kind of objects. Okay, so how do I copy? Maybe that's something you're thinking about. If you click on the object and you click on the move tool and you press shift and you drag, you see that it copied. But now if I choose copy, this object and this object has different properties. So for example, if I go to the modify tab here and I change the measurement of this to let's say 100, for example, you see it only changed this, not that. But if I click on this one and I drag, and this time around I say instance and I change this to 100, the other one changes as well. Okay, or let's even change it to 200 so that there's difference you can see, because it's an instance, so it has the same properties. Okay, so you'll be surprised if I tell you that these couple of tools here are the majority of the tools that you'll be using in 3ds Max. Okay, if you are modeling in other software. So let's look at how to create these objects here. So let's delete all of this. Okay, so on your right hand side here, there's this panel called the create panel. And when you click on the create panel, there's a plus sign here. If you click on it, it gives you different types of objects. So here we've got the standard primitives, which is like a box, a sphere, a cylinder. So for example, if I click on a box and I click, I drag, I leave the mouse and I click to move in direction that I want. You can see I can create that. If I click on sphere, I click and drag, I leave the mouse and I have my sphere. Okay, they've got this teapot. If you click and drag, you've got a teapot in there. Okay, very, very simple. Remember, this is not tutorials to learn how to model in 3ds Max. This is about modeling somewhere else and bringing your file in. Okay, so you see what I just did on this wheel here. You have the top view, but you can click on the side to go to like an orthographic kind of projection, and you can also change from the wireframe to shaded view. You can change from the shaded view to the wireframe again. You can change different styles that you would like to see it. Okay, if you are in a view, if a view is selected like this and you want to go to top view, you can just press T to go to top view, or let's go back to the 3D view, or you could click on where it says orthographic and change it from orthographic to top view. Okay, or to left, and you can also see the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts, okay, which is also there. Okay, so why do we need this create panel if we are not modeling? We need this create panel because we will be creating lights, we will be creating cameras, okay, and these are very important. So we are going to learn how to create a light, we're going to learn how to create a camera, we're going to learn how to edit their properties. So if you've created an object, so for example, if you created this box and you want to change the properties of the box, you go to the next tab. Next to the create tab is the modify, and then you have basically the parameters or the properties of the box, and you can change it accordingly. So let's go back to the create panel, and this time around let's assume that we wanted to create light. You just click on the light, and then you kind of choose what type of light. So at the moment is photometric light, which is the standard light that comes from 3DSMAX, but we will have to change it to Corona or V-Ray or Arnold, whichever plugin, rendering plugin that we use. In our case, it will be Corona Render, so we will choose Corona Render in our next tutorials as we look at it. Okay, if you go to camera as well, there you've got, and then the camera, you can see under standard, you can see Corona camera is here, so we'll also have a look at that. Okay, so very simple, really not complicated, and you see I've got these two tools here. So this is like Corona Render tools. This is for light, this is for to add sunlight, this is to add camera, and this is to add scatters, corona listers, proxy, to export proxies, to convert like a scene to Corona. So let's say, for example, you've done project in V-Ray or in Arnold Render to kind of convert the entire scene into Corona. This is about materials. If you click on it, it will open Corona materials, already made materials, which is quite beautiful. So we will have a look at all these materials as we move on. And then we've got start interactive rendering and active viewport. We'll have a look at that as well. And yeah, these are all kind of interesting and simple to click tools that we'll have a look as well. So this is also a V-Ray tools that I have. And then we'll also have a look at Forestpack. We will have a look at it quickly to see how you can add some beautiful grass into your scene. So we will have a look at that. Okay, so before we end today's tutorial, I just want to show you quickly how do you bring a model into 3ds from Revit. A very quick way to do that is by going to the file, and as I mentioned, this is a tab that I use a lot, which is a file, because in the file I can import. So if you click on import, for example, you can see here the file types that you can import. These are all different file types that you can import. Okay, so we can import all these different types of files. If you go to import again, and we can say merge. Why do we need merge? Sometimes you already have a file, a 3ds file, and you would like to merge another 3ds file into it. So you can see that the merge only allows you to merge this type of files, and so you can merge another scene. Okay, let's go import again and replace. So you can also replace an object from an external file, or we can link Revit, link FBX, or link AutoCAD. So in our case, I like to use a link because with a link, if you make any changes, you can update it quickly. So let's go to link. Okay, and I am going to just select a very simple file. So I'm going to select the sample Revit file that comes with Revit. I'm just going to open that. And it doesn't really matter which kind of view you choose. It doesn't matter. And you just say attach. So 3ds Max will bring in your Revit file with the cameras, with the lighting and everything from Revit. But I don't need the lighting, so normally I delay the lighting as I bring them in, but we are not there yet, and we'll have a look at that. So here, if you go to top view, you can see cameras. You can see all the cameras that are in Revit are there. Let's go to another camera view, shaded. All the cameras are there. Another camera view. You see? All the cameras are there. Okay. So let me quickly open Revit. And I'm going to make a change. So I will make a change in this model. And then I will show you how to update that change quickly. Okay, and just change it to wireframe. So I'm going to open that file. Let me see which file it was. Link Revit. I think it was this one, or maybe this one, 2021. Okay, so I'm just gonna open that. My Revit. Okay, our Revit is open. We've got this model here, and I'm just going to draw a wall here. Okay, and I will save it. So to save that, now go to 3ds Max, and then what I'll do is that here on the create panel, there's a button here called utilities. If I click on it, and then I click on more. If I click on more, you see I've got what we call file link manager. If I click on it and I say OK, and I go to files, you can see that it's picking up where the file is located. So because I've saved that file, I just click on it and I just say reload. And so we will speak about this in our next tutorial, because what this does is that maybe you are bringing in a file, relinking a file. You wouldn't necessarily want to bring in the light again, because maybe you've already started rendering with Corona. So I will uncheck this and just say keep 3ds Max scene materials and parameters on reload, and keep 3ds Max scene material assigned on reload. So I normally check these two and uncheck these three if I've already applied materials and lighting with Corona. Okay. And this is quite helpful, especially with a lot of changes in our industry. You you don't want to start everything again, so it is quite helpful. Where did I have that wall? think I had that. Yes, there it is. There is the wall. You can see there is the wall that's there. And the last thing before we end this tutorial is that on the bottom right here, you can see that we've got these icons here. This one says maximize viewport or Alt W. So if I click on it, I only have one view. If I click on it again, I have two views. Whichever view is selected, if I click, becomes maximizes. Okay. And then we can also use the zoom to kind of zoom in and out, or you can use your middle mouse button to scroll in and out. Okay, you can also zoom basically like that, and then you can also say zoom to extend. Zoom to extend, which is this button here, will show you everything on the scene, which is quite nice. Okay, and then you have the pen, so you can just click and pen, or again, if I click on the middle button in the mouse, the scroll button, I can use it to also pen, like you press it down and move it around. Okay, and then you've got the orbit. So if you click on the orbit, you can basically orbit around as you see fit. Okay, great. Once again, thank you guys for joining me on Archviz Africa. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. And I'm looking forward to kind of exploring 3ds Max and Corona with you in our next tutorials. See you next time. Bye.